Hi.
Hey.
Welcome to Finding Your Bliss.
Yep.
This is a new endeavor we're doing. We were encouraged to maybe take some time to have questions asked. Some of you may have seen our post on Facebook and Instagram, but we ask people to submit questions to us and we're going to try to answer them best that we can. Lang's going to tell you a little bit about kind of where we're going with this.
Well, we just figured there's maybe some questions out there, sort of some technical things. Everything from live performance, which I work with artists on, on a regular basis, as well as production and songwriting and kind of that stuff. And then there's also then kind of the experiences that I've had playing for different people and Renee's had singing for different people. We thought maybe we'll answer some stuff about that. And then we just wanted to take, maybe some of that information and try to encourage you as well as you are finding your bliss. So we're all in the process. But so our first question comes from a friend of ours named Gary Reams, and he said, "Hello, Renee and Lang. My question is about your education. Have both of you had formal music education, and if so, where and what did you study? And thanks and blessings, Gary."
Yeah, so, this is one of those things, how far back do you go? So when I was a baby...
I had piano lessons.
Right. In high school, I was very involved with music in high school and junior high and all the way through high school. It was in choir especially. I had some education, not like, I did go to college for a period of time, and I did major in music and art, but I ended up getting in a band and traveling, and that was really the beginning of, I would say, my education, but it was an education by doing. So I would not trade that for anything in the world. It was a wonderful experience for me, and I learned probably more by doing it than I would have been in a classroom. And that is not to say classrooms are bad. They're awesome, but that was my experience.
It's interesting because mine was kind of like that. I was set to go to a college in my hometown, actually, that had a great music school. And a band came to my high school. I became friends with them. That's how I got saved. Anyway, I ended up like 2 weeks after I graduated from my senior year of high school going on the road. And so I did that for 4 years. And the road, in a lot of ways, was my
It's kind
education.
of like it was the College of Hard Knocks. So
That's
to speak.
it.
Yep.
That's it. But at the same time, later, after we got married, I had always wanted to go get some kind of further drum study, training, percussion study. So when I was actually out with Jeff Moore in the Distance, I had found out about a school up in New York City called Drummers Collective. And I had to audition for it, so I did, and got into that school. And so literally, I got off the road and went to school up in New York City to go to Drummers Collective. And that was an amazing experience. And I learned, an enormous amount about playing the instrument. So for me, it was much more of a deep dive into learning and studying under some guys that were like, so the guy I wanted...
We're going to go down the story rabbit trail.
Yeah, we're almost kind of like blending them here.
Bringing it back.
Yeah. So one band that I was hugely into back when I was on the road and even in high school was a band called the Dixie Dregs. Later became just known as the Dregs. But anyway, their drummer, Rod Morgenstein, was on staff at Drummers Collective when I was getting ready to go. And I was like, so I had to sign up for a private instructor. So I was, oh my gosh, Rod Morgenstein. Anyway, the Dixie Dregs do a freaking reunion tour while I'm there. So he left and they put me with a guy who was a freak of nature, whose name was Pete Zeltman. And he played for like some old jazz cats, Sonny Stitt, Sonny Rollins. He played on Steve Vai's first solo record. And he was just a freak of nature, weirdo, like amazing talent. I'd never seen anybody do what he did before, and have not seen anybody do it since. Now, I'm not saying people can't do it, but real briefly, am I going too long?
That's all right. I'll jump in when he's done.
Yeah, okay. So he goes, what do you want to learn? And he's playing all this crazy stuff while I'm just standing there getting to know him. And he says, okay, well, I'm going to teach you how to do some things. And what we're going to do is we're going to play a different time signature in each limb. And so I'm like, yeah, right. So anyway, he starts playing this stuff, and he's playing. He goes, all right, I'll play in 7 in my right hand. I'll play in 5 in my left. I'll play in 3 in my right foot and let 2 in my left. And I'm like, anyway, he starts doing it. He's counting each one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, and he's playing patterns. He's not just playing keeping time. Mm-hmm. And then he goes, okay, I'm going to solo in my left hand in 5. And my jaw's on the floor. My brain has exploded. I'm like, why am I here? I'm going, I can hardly, make 2 and 4 happen, let alone, But after studying with him, I started understanding how that could work. Anyway, so school for me was a very deep dive into the technical aspect of drumming, and I was so thankful for it.
Yeah, and I would just say, based on our experiences, I think when it comes to learning music, there is nothing. The value of actually, I think in the past, it's weird. It's like now I'm going back and learning about probably the things I could have learned at the time if I had actually stayed in school and didn't go on the road. But it has more meaning to me now. I know that sounds really weird because I've already been in the process of doing it, and just like Lang, I. Before I came to Nashville, I was in a band out in Colorado. We opened up for some different artists. I was in a Christian band with several people, and we opened up for some people, and I got my first gig doing background vocals with David Meese. And I mean, literally, I went from being in a local band to all of a sudden I'm with David Meese, a touring Christian artist, and I'm singing with 2 incredibly talented singers at the time. Donna McElroy, who I was on the road with Amy, but was also on the road with another singer. She went by the name of Patty Leatherwood, and she actually was a background singer for Waylon Jennings for many, many years. And the band that played for David was Whiteheart. So, it was like literally I went from local band into a touring band, and we toured about 3 months, and then from that point it kind of that door opened up to me being with Amy Grant and being with some outstanding musicians and singers. So it was a really, really quick, real-time, education, and being able to be involved with the best really just helped me develop my skills as a singer, and I am forever grateful for that. And I think I just want to encourage you that wherever you are in your music journey, whether you're further along and seasoned, I know that you all enjoy the craft of playing and learning. And for those of you that are coming up and just getting started with your music goals and careers, just encourage you to just try to have an open mind and learn as much as you can. Learn the technical stuff, get in a group with some musicians and jam, take a stab at doing recording. I mean, just kind of jump in there and go for it.
Kind of like our cat.
Yes.
Right here. It seemed like both of us grew up in a time and around musicians who it was really all about doing it, and there's nothing. And so this question about our education or where did we study, for us it wasn't a formal education, but in a lot of ways it was what the industry at that time sort of required. Mm-hmm. It was like there was less focus on where you studied and more focus on could you play, and it didn't mean that people who did study couldn't play. That's not at all what I'm saying. But it really kind of always came down to, can you do it? And that was just born out in doing it, I guess, Mm-hmm. And as we, I jumped into the deep end of going up to school in New York City because I wanted to study. I wanted more. And you guys, I'm sure, are the same way. If you're doing this, you're doing it because you love it. You do it because you want to be better at it. You're always trying to get better at it. It's something we'll never stop. I come down and practice. I wish I had more time to practice. I'd like to practice literally every day, but I don't get the chance to every day.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, that. Then we're going to ask a real quick question.
So this is a we're really we hope that more people that see these videos of us talking, and hopefully it'll be helpful to you. That's the goal of it,
exactly.
is that it's not just about us talking about our past, but it's really about encouraging you on in the pursuits of your dreams. It doesn't necessarily have to be a music thing, but just encourage you to keep going and maybe share some tips and experiences that we have had that will make you go, yep, I'm not crazy. Someone else has gone through that as well.
Right.
But we did receive another question. Actually, it was several questions in the question.
So we're going to cover one of them, and it's Matt Grass. Thanks for asking this. So this is in response to your request for questions. So you put out a great album in '95, and then the next project wasn't released until 2011. That's a long silent period. Tell us about those years. What were you doing during those years? How did you? So we'll leave it there. We'll
answer that first one, because that is a really loaded question.
It's a big question.
It's a very big question.
Thanks, Matt.
Yes.
We appreciate that.
So where do we begin with that? Well, so some of you may know and some of you may not know that I did 2 solo records with a record label called Reunion, and that was prior to '95. Lang and I got married in '86, and we both really wanted to be working together on a project together. We had been on the road together, touring on a tour, which I don't want to give away that because I'm hoping somebody go, tell us the tour. So I'll just leave, I'm going to leave who we were with. We went on the road, and we just really started, we had written some music on my last couple records that I did with Reunion, and really wanted to work together. So that brings us to '95. I ended up leaving the record deal I was in, and I don't want to do too much of a, hey, I'm going to play you a violin and tell you the sad tale of living in Nashville. But I mean, just about everybody that you talk to in this town probably has the same story as ours, or maybe familiar. But anyway, I left the record label I was with, and we signed a record deal with REX Records, which is referring to 1995. We released our record on REX Records as Bliss, and we ended up with a #1 song off of that record, which is fantastic and awesome, and we're very thankful for all the different people that believed in us. And we give a special shout out to Dave Bunker, who was our A&R guy at the time, is a very good friend who really believed in us and really was an engine behind that record. Well, not long after we released our single, about 6 months later, the record label went under. It's a complex, very strange story, but we won't go into that. But the record label went under, and
you kind of can't say in Nashville that you've been an artist unless you've been on a label that's gone under.
Yes.
That's kind of like.
So we're going to chalk that up. There's our little mark on the
we're real artists.
Chalkboard of
Been on a label
experiences that
that's
we had.
gone under.
So we were put into a very strange kind of period of time. It was a limbo period of time for us, as far as like, okay, where do we go from here? Because obviously after the REX record deal, we were not signed to a record label.
We'll say one thing, that we also had a management contract, and we had a deal with REX. But the reason REX went under had to do with payments. And so the masters were locked up. So we were not able to get to the masters. Mm-hmm. We weren't able to, in essence, leave the contract and also so there were, and the management company put a lock on us as well. They wouldn't let us sign the way the contract was written. We couldn't go to another management agreement for 5 years or 7 years. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was a very long period of time. So we kept doing music. Obviously, we were not doing music. I was doing some bookings still. I was doing some solo stuff at the time. Not much, but some. And we were still working on our music. I mean, but we went through a really kind of, it's one of those seasons that you went through. And it was a really strange time, like I said, because we released our record. I had my first child, like this was crazy. I was about ready to have a baby, and our song went #1, and I think was it a week later I had
Yeah.
it. Anyway, so we were in parent mode, doing music stuff, but just really going through a real long season of trying to figure out, like, do we want to still do this?
Well,
As much as we went through, we were kind of like, we must either be like crazy, which I would put some of this as probably crazy, but we really still felt like we were not done yet with our music, but we just didn't quite know at the time kind of where to go with it. So I promise you this will lead to something, I promise. Go ahead and say what you're going to
Well, so in that time, Renee started singing for Chuck Colson's ministry, Prison
Yeah.
Fellowship. And for about 10 years, she was going in prisons and singing. And I ended up going out with the company that owned the sound company that did all the sound support for those events. And so I was running sound, I don't know, 6-7 years into her 10-year period. And so I was going on the road running sound. She would sing. Sometimes we'd do the events together. Sometimes we wouldn't. Sometimes we'd bring the kids along and they'd be babysat at
We
the
had
hotel.
2 kids by that time, yeah.
So anyway,
It was a really awesome time, though. We hadn't released any music, like, as in a, an album, kind of like what we did when we did in 2011. That record took a long time because we were independent artists at that time before it was hip to be an independent artist.
Well,
I mean, we were the funders of our own recording. And getting back to a question we answered earlier about learning, Lang kind of took the bulls by the horns, and he was the producer. We wrote the songs. I mean, we did some co-writing with other people and all that. But that was one of those things where I would say, getting back to the education thing, it's like, the necessity is the mother of all invention. I mean, you just kind of have to jump in there and do it, which is what we did as independent artists back then. But I did a 10-year period of, I really loved it because it gave me an opportunity to sing. It was a tough audience, as you can imagine. When I say singing in a prison, a lot of people have this sort of like they have a picture in their head of what that is. When I say prison, I'm talking maximum security, Rikers Island, HBO special prison. Like you don't want to get shanked on the way walking into the yard to do a show. Yeah. But it was a really, really awesome opportunity to be with other performers, singers, actors, sports figures, and different people who came in and shared their testimony, and we got to meet a lot of people, and it was a really cool time of just being able to be a light in a dark place and share with people.
I guess to wrap it up, if we were to leave you with something today, and our story, it's that you just have to keep doing it. You have to keep going. If that's what you love and that's what you want to do, and and we as believers feel like there's a purpose behind it. There's a calling element to it. You have to keep doing it. You have to keep going. And so, I guess if we can inspire you or encourage you, just to say, don't give up. If you haven't reached yet your goals, keep at it. Keep at it. If there's something you feel like having the education will help you accomplish, hey, maybe you can't go to school, but maybe you can take some online courses, or maybe you can get online and go through a course and working around your time doing other things. That's really kind of where we are as well. We're not really full time. We kind of are, but we're not. We're still trying to fulfill some things on our own, hearts that we want to see happen. Mm-hmm. So I guess we would just say, hey, keep at it. Don't give up. But at the same time, the way that you're going to get it done is going to be really unique. Our story is somewhat similar to a lot of people in Nashville, but in a lot of ways, it's nothing like anybody. Because, we all go through our own path. We all have to sort of stay true to what's on our heart. And we believe that God directs our steps. We believe that as we submit it to Him, He directs our paths. but you have to move in order to be directed.
Yeah,
So,
you got to be moving.
so at any rate, we hope this was encouraging. We hope it was entertaining and fun to listen to us. We're complete idiots, and it's great fun to always look at those sorts of people.
Yeah, and we'll be there'll be we are not sure how often we're going to do this. It'll either be weekly, bi-weekly, but this was our first. We just decided, hey, it's time to just jump in the pool and go for it.
Yeah.
So we would encourage anybody that has just discovered this, please by
share
all
it.
means, submit your questions, and we'll do our best to answer them.
Yeah. All right. So until next time on Finding Your Bliss,
Finding your bliss.
have a great week. We'll see you guys. Bye-bye.